so that it becomes affordable and accessible, it's multilingual, and it's socially beneficial? Can we design a DPI, a digital public infrastructure for artificial intelligence architecture that makes adoption easy, it makes it trustworthy, it makes it interoperable and scalable, and especially for those who are in MSME and those who are below, especially for women and those below poverty line, so that it is accessible to all. Otherwise, we'll create an inequitable society. And therefore, to help us answer these questions, we have deliberately structured the session into two panels, 30 minutes each. And the first panel looks outward to understand how other countries are organizing institutions, building trust frameworks, and enabling the diffusion of AI. We want to learn from competitive and comparative experiences. And the second panel will look inward, asking what India can build, or how India can build, operationalize, and implement over the 12 to 18 months. And the first panel helps us to extract the design principles. The second panel helps us to translate those principles into architecture. Diffusion requires both perspective and execution. So, ladies and gentlemen, we have a very, very distinguished panel here. Let me introduce Mr. Amandeep Gill, who's the Under-Secretary General and Special Envoy for Digital and Emerging Technologies of the United Nations. I have a very distinguished friend of mine, Mr. Kita Nishiyama. He's a former Director General of METI, the Ministry of Economic Trade and Industry, which is the most powerful ministry in Japan. We have Mr. Hugo Valadares, the Director of Science, Technology and Digital Innovation from Government of Brazil. And we have Professor Ramesh Raska from the Massachusetts Institute of Technology, MIT. So, ladies and gentlemen, let me first start with Mr. Kita Nishiyama. Mr. Nishiyama, what lessons can we draw from national experiences such as Japan's in building institutions that enable artificial intelligence to diffuse into everyday economic and administrative use?
Thank you, and thank you for inviting me to this very important session. Time is limited, so I will give you, in this essence, 3 points or 4 points. The first approach of Japanese government to AI is process-based, if I may call it that way. Because as everybody knows, today's AI is learning-based, meaning feedback-based. So in my opinion, the most important thing is how we are able to construct a good feedback channel rather than bad feedback channel. So when we say process approach, means that we don't rely on very stringent, as Mr. Kant introduced me, I was a government official, but we should not rely on, government official ordering very minute rules. That's not feedback approach. So we are having AI strategy, we have the AI law, but all of them are based on essentially agile approach, feedback approach. That's first point. Second point relates to the education or empowerment. And of course, previously, we have many curriculums for IT engineers, for that matter. But they're essentially designed for providing curriculums, education to become professionals in this area. Of course, these are still important, but I think we are, at least Japanese government is changing approach from more generalist to empowerment for general public. For example, we have a semi-governmental agency called IPA, Information Promotion something. But anyway, they are providing a IT passport together with what Japanese Deep Learning Association is providing certificate for journalists in AI. So these educational curriculums are actually focusing on users rather than developers of UI. So everybody should become or have to become a users of AIs in some way or other. So therefore, we are focusing more on education empowerment of users, or generalists for that matter. And also, I'm now in University of Tokyo. University of Tokyo is providing what we call GCI, which is specifically designed for data science and its application in many business use cases. And it's open to not only university students, but many business persons or even high school students. So it becomes very, very popular. Again, it's not designed for specialists or experts, rather than anybody who are interested in AI to develop its own application, its own positions. And actually, we are now trying to promote them into the global south as well, including India. Thirdly, because as you know, Japan is a manufacturing country. We are linking AI technology to manufacturing or hardware businesses. And I now have some business with in the construction industry. Construction may not be particularly manufacturing, but it's same in the sense that they are dealing with hardwares. And as you may know, AI is very compatible with construction business, because if you go to the construction site, you have to deal with complex things and unique things every day. If you go to, Toyota factory, for example, it's complex, but still they're making cars almost similar every day by similar person. But if you go to construction site, you have to build something different by team of different background people. So these are the typical use cases which are now very popular to introducing AI technology. But finally, because DPI session, I have to say what Japan is lacking is structured DPI. And I think this is the area where we can learn from many other countries' experience, including India. And why I'm stressing this issue is, if I may go back to my first principle, AI governance should be feedback system. And if you had to have a feedback system, you have to change how government functions, not only limited to how AI should be developed, but how government should make rules, how they regulate industries, and I think that most has to be changed. And so in that area, I think there are many things we can learn from DPI experiences of India, including DEPA. So I'll stop here and pass on.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much, Nishiyama-san. Let me turn to Mr. Gill, who's the technology czar of the United Nations. Amandeep, India has built up open source, open API, globally interoperable digital public infrastructure. That's because we believe in making technology affordable. We believe in making it accessible. And now with Sarvam, we believe in making it multilingual. So tell me, how do you view it at the United Nations? What's the takeaway for India if we were to build a digital public infrastructure for artificial intelligence? What should we align with internationally, and what should remain sovereign by design? And how does the Global Digital Compact signal a global commitment to digital cooperation? Can you give us a broad sweep of this?
Absolutely, delighted to be here and reflect on what the DPI's experience. India, we have Brazil represented here on the panel, PIX, for example. So what does that mean for the AI opportunity? I think the DPI principles of interoperability, openness, and modularity, they help us land a sweet spot between digital sovereignty and international cooperation. So sovereignty, if you look at the DPI stack, the core elements, so it's a sovereign infrastructure managed at societal scale in the public interest, on top of which, private sector innovation can take place. And that is where the interoperability aspect, the international connections, being part of the global digital economy becomes obvious. Now, taking it one step further, if you look at the DPI experience as a model for AI governance and AI adoption as well, so if you have model repositories, if you have these APIs, these benchmarks, then SMEs, startups can focus on innovation without having to build everything from scratch. So they focus on what they can do best while relying on the foundations, both in terms of access to data, access to customers, but also in terms of governance, which is, as my friends from the iSpirit community in Bangalore would say, which is a techno-legal infrastructure, and then innovate with confidence. So I think this is the most valuable lesson that we can see from the DPI's experience. Now, if we take it a step further, at the global level, we are building something of a similar architecture, which is in the global public interest. So you have these regular scientific assessments through the International Independent Scientific Panel on AI. So every country doesn't have the resources to do its independent assessments, and they want to rely on neutral, independent advice. So you're providing a global public good. Through the dialogue, again, every country doesn't have to reinvent governance from scratch. So you can look at experiences that work well, that don't work well, then make up your own mind and apply it in context. And finally, through capacity building, that's the third pillar of our approach. You can then take AI diffusion a step further and learn from experiences of other countries where use cases are scaling, what are the critical enablers, and perhaps even collaborate on some of those critical enablers like data sets for climate change resilient agriculture, compute that's scarce so it can be pooled and made accessible to startups, talent which is flighty. So how do you retain talent within the global south by providing them those exciting opportunities? So those are the kind of global level consideration in terms of a DPI inspired approach.
I just wanted to ask you a follow-up question on this, because one of my huge concern is that, talent resides here. A lot of data resides here. Many of these models are getting better and better, more and more sophisticated with Indian data and the data from Global South. The challenge is that so much of computing power is being added. OpenAI is one deal with NVIDIA, 11 gigawatt, 5 million GPUs of the most advanced variety. What does it imply in the long run? I mean, won't they need more sophisticated software with less computing power? Eventually, won't AI get commoditized? And that would require us to have very sophisticated software, which will make a difference rather than just hardware?
I think that's one approach, and that could get locked in of massive compute, massive data center capacity for inference, and models that serve as not just commodities but essential infrastructure. So provide intelligence within codes through APIs at a cost all over the world, and in a sense compress AI development at the top end. So that's one possible future out there. But I think we also have to work for a future that has more democratization of opportunities, where SLMs, smaller models, 50, 70 billion parameters, working with multilingual, context-specific language data sets are solving local problems, where you have more diverse talent, cross-domain talent, engaging on that. I think that kind of a future, which recalls kind of the earlier vision of the internet and the digital economy, is worth fighting for. And I would say this is not so much, digital sovereignty, but it's a practical approach of maximizing the benefits from AI.
Okay. Thanks. Thanks, Amandeep. We have with us Mr. Hugo Valadares. He's from Brazil, and He's played, Brazil, as you're all aware, did the G20 right after us. And one of the key things about Brazil is that it's publicly framed inclusion concerns in its artificial intelligence policy discourse. And therefore, what mechanisms actually ensure diffusion beyond big firms? How does shared infrastructure, public procurement, MSME toolkits, sandboxes, what role do they play? Can you highlight a little bit on this?
So, hello. Can you hear me? Okay. Good afternoon for everyone. It's a pleasure to be here, actually to speak about what we are doing in Brazil to achieve on a scale on artificial intelligence regarding the long run we have to run due to the problems we have along our history. We are not especially a very rich country, but we have a lot of things to offer. I believe what we are doing, we can summarize in 2 words: sovereignty and ecosystem. Regarding the sovereignty, to do something in these days, especially in big data, we need very powerful infrastructure, hardware, GPUs. And we know we have to buy somewhere because we don't can make this kind of infrastructure by ourselves. However, we can buy, we can learn how to use, and especially we can do the software stack because software is easier for us. We need for this, of course, to know how to do that, but we need people, good people, engineers, computer scientists, and doctors, PhDs, and what else. So, regarding this, we also have a lot of data, public data, which is very important. And many of countries would like to know the data we have, because we have data from the justice, the health, the education. You have, of course, is a lot of people, not a lot of people like India, but 200 million people, it's a lot of people. And first of all, we have to do that, sovereignty. We are very concerned about that, but we know we have many steps to give before be absolutely capable to do all of the things necessary to accomplish all these tasks. But we are also concerned about the ecosystem. We are, in this very moment, buying a supercomputing, a public supercomputing, to do many things. Of course, research. We have to put our researchers to make science, to solve the problems of the country, and the problems of the world, and the problems of the friend countries. We are working together to many countries in this very moment. But we also trying to give to the, for example, to startups, to small companies, capability to use our infrastructure instead of by processing in another countries or from the big techs. So with this, we believe we can start, actually we already started. We have a plan, the Brazilian Artificial Intelligence Plan, which was launched 2 years ago by President Lula, and we believe you are in the correct way.
Okay.
So we are going to do very good things.
Thanks, Hugo, for that Brazilian perspective, adding on to the overall viewpoint of the Global South. I now turn to an old friend of mine, Ramesh Raska, who's a professor at MIT and who's been dabbling on this subject on a day-to-day basis for a long time. So Ramesh, America is the most innovative society. I mean, it's all the innovation on AI is happening there. All the investments in the world, 80% of it is being attracted by AI companies in the United States. Is this leading to a more inequitable society in the United States because they don't have a safety net? And will this bubble ever burst? What's the MIT viewpoint?
Very easy questions. Thank you, Amitabh. It's great to be here. And I think a lot of the confusion here, I think, stems from what I would call kind of the factory era of AI versus the bazaar era of AI. And Amandeep hinted at it, which is right now we have an assumption that a handful of companies, maybe 4 or 5 companies, are going to create these massive solutions with billions of dollars of investment, nuclear power plants, and $100 million salaries, and we're just going to be downstream users of that. But I think we're shifting from the factory model to a bazaar model where intelligence is commoditized, models are very small, they'll run on the edge, they'll run on your laptops and your PC, and very soon all of us will have our own micro AIs. We'll run our own AI agents, if you want to call them. And when everybody has their own AI agent, we're training our own models, we're solving our own problems. Every math teacher, every diabetic expert, every farmer is creating their own agent. And that's how they're going to run their life. And once you have this decentralization, then you go into this era where how do you actually create a society where every individual has their own AI agent? And I would say definitely there's a lot of investment in the US, but I would say, and some people are saying that there's an overinvestment in AI infra buildup when the focus should shift to the network of AI agents, which is what happened in the 80s and 90s. There was a lot of focus on mainframes. And people were like, actually, it's about the PCs. But actually, it's not even about the PCs. At MIT, Tim Berners-Lee said, it's about the World Wide Web. It's the internet of those PCs. And right now, it's not about the AI. It's about the internet of those AIs. And that's where the digital public infrastructure starts playing a very key role. Because if you want to network all these AI agents, there'll be an Amitabh agent, there'll be a Ramesh agent, but how do we know who we are? How do you authenticate? Thanks to Aadhaar and UPI and DigiLocker and so on, all that works out. So I've been chatting with Mr. Abhishek Singh and Mr. Safi from India for quite some time, and they strongly encourage us to put together a program leading up to this summit. Thank you for encouraging us and pushing us. And with their blessing, we put together a coalition to create an AI agent for everybody. And I think my team got a little bit overboard, so they wanted me to wear this T-shirt, which says Doot, which is another layer in DPI to see how every individual can have their own AI agent. So I would say when there's an overinvestment, I think those folks are going to go focus on maybe ads, advertisements.
Okay.
But I think now we can probably focus on health
So
and education.
Ramesh, let me ask you one follow-up question on this. So you've seen the build-up on computing power in the United States. You've seen a more optimization of computational power in China. What is the midway path to that for a country like India to make it more affordable, make it more accessible, make it multilingual? What is the right approach from an MIT perspective?
Yeah, I would say this phase one of the factory model of AI, is still important, but the focus has to shift to the bazaar model, the network model, and whoever can make that shift faster is going to be the leader. He's going to serve their population really well, as opposed to focusing just on phase one. And that is really a network problem rather than an AI problem. But in today's world, you're going to solve the network problem also with AI. Just as in the 90s, you had Dell and HP building PCs, but the company that became much more valuable than them was Cisco, because they built the networking gear. But the networking gear of Cisco is also a computer. But the networking was much more important than building the PCs. And the same thing is true now. You have to build a whole new stack for the networking aspect of it. Trust, identity, a new DNS, a new ICANN, a new W3C, and so on has to emerge. And that's critical.
Okay. So wonderful. Such a delight to be this great panel here today. We've had a perspective from Japan, from Brazil. We've had a great perspective from the United Nations, and we've had a great perspective from one of the greatest academic institutions in the world, MIT, on how different governments, different institutions, and the United Nations view the adoption of AI, how to accelerate greater affordability, accessibility, and to make it more accessible to the common citizens of the world, and how to transform their lives. This was a global and international perspective. Thank you very much to all of you. Greatly appreciate your presence, and you're coming from different parts of the world to join us at this panel discussion as we now turn to an India inward perspective. Thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen. Ramesh, quickly for a photograph.
Can we get the other panel also into the photo?
No, we'll join do it after this. That's it. Okay. The next panel, Abhishek, come. Come all of you. Please, please. Come. Come, please. Come here. Come here. See what's inside. I'll get a t-shirt for you. Okay, everyone. Please take everyone. Thank you. Thanks. Thanks. Please come. Yes. Is somebody? Prateek, names? Quickly. So, ladies and gentlemen, we have a very, very formidable panel here. Let's first give a clap for Mr. Abhishek Singh, who's the CEO of MyGov, who's the man behind this summit and who's driven it with great passion, a great energy. We have Dr. Jenny Tennyson of the Frontier AI Labs. We have give a big clap for Dr. Vivek Raghavan for the path-breaking work on multilingual model that Sarvam has done and made India proud. And we have Dr. Gaurav Agarwal from Reliance Jio. So what we are doing is that our view is that India has a huge distinctive advantage. It has talent, it has skill, it has already built up digital public infrastructure model which enabled India to achieve 50 years of progress in 7 years. We have demonstrated that DPI can align incentives, reduce marginal cost, and scale adoption across a billion people, bring equity, and ensure that there's no technological divide. And therefore, let me say that the question now is whether we can apply the same principles, the same institutional imagination to artificial intelligence. And for our purposes, we believe that there is a 12 to 18 months window, and if we had to ship version 1 of DPI for API in that time frame of 12 to 18 months, what would it include? How can India drive DPI for API? And let me start with Abhishek Singh. Abhishek Singh is a key driver. He's the need for institutions that lower adoption costs and build trust, make it accessible, affordable. What institutional form is best? How do we drive it? Do we need NPCI-like operator? Do we need MyGov? Do we need Abhishek Singh? Do we need a standards body? Or do we need a federated model across ministries? Tell us, how do we take it forward? If you were given 12 months to make DPI for AI, what are the 5 key things you will do?
Thank you, sir. And it's indeed great to hear from the global panelists and now to come to the national perspective. So like the DPI playbook has lots of lessons that we can adopt for AI. Like in DPI, what did we do? What we built the common layers that was required for everyone, whether it's identity layer, the payments layer, or the data layer, the Aadhaar, the UPI, the DigiLocker. On top of it, we build applications in healthcare, education, agriculture, like that. The similar model would be required in AI as well, because what does AI need? It needs compute, it needs data, it needs talent. Talent we have plenty, but what the investment that is required for building common compute infrastructure is not that every state government or every government department or every entity can do, especially for public services. So what we need to do is invest in common compute infrastructure, which we have started doing under India AI mission, but that needs to be scaled multiple times over. Second layer that's required is the data layer, because without data, you can't train models, you can't build applications. So the AI Kosh platform, which currently has 10,000 data sets, that needs to be scaled up further. So different entities, both from the public sector and private sector who hold data, they need to contribute data sets there and make it available, shareable for people to train models and build applications. The third layer that's again a common is the foundational model layer. Luckily, Vivek and Pratyush have built Sarvam, and there are many other Indian sovereign models that are currently in the pipeline. So I believe that in the next 6 to 9 months, we'll have 4 to 5 foundational models which will level. On top of these 3 fundamental layers, we'll need an orchestration layer with which anybody who is building an application AI use case in healthcare or agriculture can connect to any of these models, leverage the datasets and the compute that is available, and offer services, inferencing services at scale. So, sir, if we have to sum up, if we have to scale up AI at population scale, to ensure diffusion of AI, to ensure that every farmer, every student, every health worker has access to these services, we will need to maybe expand the compute layer to from what we have today to say 100,000 GPUs, expand the dataset layer to multiple levels, and come out with a framework in which those who are developing applications, startups and researchers, can leverage this common layer and start building applications at scale.
Yeah, but Abhishek, don't you need the Indian private sector to take the lead and push for more and more computing power? It can't be just the government's job. And Indian private sector needs to be more aggressive in getting computing power.
Exactly, sir. And in fact, I must say that the compute that we have built so far today, we came out with a model with the private sector invest into the compute.
Yeah.
Government only subsidizes the end usage. So we are not buying any compute for the government. So the 14 players who have invested in the 38,000 GPUs, that need to expand further. We need to have the big companies that are in India who are operating, who have sufficient margins in the other businesses to invest into the 100,000 GPUs or 2,000 GPUs or the AI factories like the West is building. So that compute backbone will be required, and the investment should ideally come from the private sector to make this dream of making UPI for AI a reality.
Thank you. Thank you, Abhishek. We now turn to Dr. Vivek Raghavan, who's done some sterling and path-breaking work. And, many years back, Lee Kuan Yew, the Prime Minister of Singapore, said India is a crazy country because it has endless languages, and every 15 kilometers you have a new dialect. It's impossible to govern. He said if he was asked to govern India, he would fail. What Dr. Vivek Raghavan has demonstrated is that what was a disadvantage is actually an advantage through his multilingual model. And he's done it at optimum cost, and he's demonstrated that India can do a great, unique model bringing in India's diversity. So Vivek, tell us the next challenge for Sarvam to make it, don't you need more and more Indian data? Why should Indian data flow to OpenAI? Why should Indian data flow to Google Gemini? Why shouldn't Indian data flow only to Sarvam? Because that will make you more and more better, more and more sophisticated. Tomorrow OpenAI and Google will be consuming Indian data and selling you in products to Indians using Indian data at very high cost. And that will be colonization in reverse. So tell us.
No, sir. First of all, thank you for inviting me on this panel, and thank you for your kind words. I think we are at the very beginning of our journey. I think I think we've made a good start, and I think that, I think we're going to build some models out, put some models out there which are world class in their category, and we've been doing that over the past few weeks, and we hope to do some more. But I think the important thing is that these models can actually reach the next level only when there is usage. and there is usage at a large scale. And I think that one of the challenges, and I don't know the answer to this question, but one of the challenges is that we are actually looking at competing with free, right? So if you know, and I think in the real world, nothing is free. So and if all the frontier models are available for free, in any other industry, it's probably called dumping, right? But here we think that this is something that is. So I think that's something that we have to figure out. How do we actually kind of over time, right, create an ecosystem where there is. And I've been. The reason we do multilingual is a deep, thing for, inclusion and getting everybody involved in there. But it's interesting, right? That we have to figure out that in this era, I believe AI, probably the most interesting thing that you could compare it to is actually nuclear technology, and the world really has the haves and the have-nots, and that's really where we are at. And I think that the question is that in AI, I think I'd openly say it, despite all of the things that we're doing, the US and China are far ahead of us, right? And that's a fact that we have to accept. But I think then the question is, we are at a cusp. Which side of this divide do we fall? Do we actually become a digital colony, or do we actually become in the nations that actually have this technology? It literally is that stark.
So give us the three key things that India needs to do, or the global South needs to do, not to become a digital colony. Give us three big things.
I think one of the things that we have to look at some of these technologies, as Ramesh was saying earlier, it is not necessarily the largest model that matters, but how you are able to orchestrate many models to do extremely sophisticated things. If we put focus on those kinds of things, so that most things that we need to do governance, we need to. For the first time, I believe, I know. UPI has been a great success story in the country, but I think most other things in our country are actually harder to do than in other parts of the world. And I think with AI, for the first time, I think every citizen can actually get their things in their lives done simply and with ease, and that's something that we can do. And so therefore, the important thing that we need to make sure is, how do we make sure that Indian models are used at a large scale? And of course, it needs to be good. If it's not good, nobody will use it. But still, you have to figure out how do you make sure that, and that's because it's the same thing. You were saying that, right? I think if you look at it, where
data is going to make it better and better and better.
Of course,
and more sophisticated.
And
so.
if you're and who gets to use the data, it really does matter, right? If sometimes we are very happy that India is the second largest user of ChatGPT. Really, what does that mean? It means that we are exporting our data and importing intelligence. And if you go back 100 years, it's like we are exporting cotton and importing cloth.
And they'll be selling you. They'll be
right?
selling you products at very high cost tomorrow.
Whether it is, and today it's free, right? Tomorrow what it will be, we don't know. But I think this is but if you are not in the race, you don't have any options.
Yeah.
And that's the truth of the matter. So. So I think that we have, one of the things that I really think is, and I was talking to Gaurav just before we got on here, is last year DeepSeek came out with a model. And today there are 10 great Chinese models, right? Can this be this year, can the same thing happen in India? I think but the one difference which is in China, and we have to think about it, is you can only use Chinese models in China. And that's not the case here. And that's something we need to think about. And of course, that's not our model. That's not what we will do by default. But that's something to think about if you really want to be a great player in this space.
So, first of all, thank you very much, Vivek, for that perspective that outlook and for having done some great path-breaking innovation. And, one of the key things with the AI mission has done is really to put opened up data sets through AI Kosh. It's provided computing power to a lot of our startups and researchers at low costs. And I think India has a lot of talent. So I personally feel that there will be a lot of disruption happening. The race is never won by the first mover. Clive Osborne did the first laptop. It went bust. He went bust. Actually, it was Apple which won the race. And Alta Vista did the first internet. Alta Vista was sold at zero cost, zero price, and actually the internet race was eventually won by Google. So I'm quite sure that slow and steady like Servam will always win the race. So I've just no doubt that, we'll make sure that you win that race. So don't worry. All Indians are behind you. We have Dr. Jenny Tennyson. Jenny, great welcome to India, first of all. Great pleasure to have you. And the Frontier AI Labs, you've largely consumed the publicly available internet. The next frontier is going to be private data held by governments, hospitals, enterprises. Given that this data is often about communities, not just individual, how do you access these data sets? And how should that be governed? Who negotiates on behalf of communities whose data is at stake? And what's next for the Frontier AI Labs?
Thank you very much, and it is a delight to be here, although slightly bewildering to be on domestic panel, so I honestly...
You're very much domestic for us.
Okay, I will feel domesticated. I actually work for an organization called Connected by Data, which is a campaigning group for communities to have a powerful say over data and AI. And as already mentioned, access to data is really key in our kind of future for what AI looks like, and in particular, those kind of context-driven, context-specific, small data sets, the bazaar model that has already been talked about. We need to have a data infrastructure that supports not just the creation of these big frontier models, but also the more agentic systems that we're seeing coming and the systems that query on demand. And there's lots of challenges with building that kind of data infrastructure, technological ones, financial ones, but the ones that I want to focus on are the ones that are to do with people and that are to do with governance. This kind of data is very often the type of data that people feel most connected with. It's data about their health, it's data about their finances, it's data about the benefits they receive or the income that they get. It's data about their languages, their cultures, their land. And it's often being paid for, the collection of that is often being paid for by public authorities. People are naturally concerned about how that data gets used, how it gets shared. And in public attitudes research, we not only see the privacy aspects, which people talk about all the time, but also concerns about how it's used ethically, whether it is used for good, and whether it's used equitably, whether the benefits that are attained from use of that data, and that includes the financial returns from use of that data, return to the people who originally provided it or that feel ownership over it. And this matters because democracy and democratization is not just about more access, it is also about control and who benefits. And if we don't tackle those risks, then people will withdraw consent, they will stop using public services because they're worried about how data might be collected, they'll omit information, they'll provide misinformation, and that will, if we just care about data, that will actually undermine the quality of the data that we use. And the big challenge here is that our current data protection laws, which are based on the same kind of thing across the world, are actually based on a model that's not fit for purpose in the AI age. We need to have we need to have laws and controls that provide protections around collective and societal harms. And we need our data infrastructure to be built with data institutions, the organizations that can balance the interests of the people with the interests of those who want to use that data and can bring that benefit back to those people. And that requires us to have more participatory governance mechanisms, things that bring in people's voices in making decisions about who gets access to data, how it gets used, and how the benefits from that return. So that's the bit that I'm most interested in. We've got a research symposium tomorrow on participatory AI, which you're not all invited to because the room won't hold it. But I really encourage you to take a look at some of the mechanisms that we have for bringing people's voice into the ways in which we decide how data and AI is used. If we don't get that right, we will undermine trust and we will not get the adoption that we need from these technologies.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Thank you, Jenny. And I now turn to Dr. Gaurav Agarwal, who's heading Reliance Jio in terms of technology, one of the most creative people around. Gaurav, I wanted to ask you, Reliance Jio has done some path-breaking work in taking mobile telephony, DPI, to the grassroots level. Why have Indian companies, leading companies, particularly IT companies, they're sitting on huge cash balances. Look at TCS, look at Infosys. Why haven't Reliance Jio and all of you taken the lead to make India the champion of AI? Why have you not acquired more computing power? Why have you not pushed for technology? What is that bottleneck? Is it regulatory incentive structure, trust deficit? What is it? Why haven't you been, why shouldn't you have done the first few LLMs instead of Servam doing it? Why should a young startup like Servam beat Reliance Jio at this game? Shouldn't the first multilingual model have come out of Reliance Jio? And why are you people lagging behind?
I wish I knew the answer. No, I'm happy for what Vivek has done. The reason I'm at Reliance, actually, to change that. The reason I joined Reliance a couple of years ago is exactly for that reason. I used to be at Google DeepMind. I felt Google has thousands of people like me. And the reason, I'm doing my bit by joining Reliance to do the same here. I think what happens, I've never worked for an IT service company, so I don't know whether I should speak on their behalf. But I think other large companies, I think, it's just a little more Indian. It's not even about companies. I think we find, we feel satisfied very soon, I think, You go to our academia. Most of the academic professors, they have done PhD from the top colleges. Most of them have got PhDs from external great universities. But we don't create the same kind of innovation in India. Yes, resources are one reason. But I think it's just that aspiration loses way somewhere. I think we have to sort of rekindle that. And that's what I was talking to Vivek about. I think their success sort of rekindles it for a lot of us. It's not like, what Servam is doing, we are not trying to do. We are in that race. And it is like a healthy competition. I had a mixed emotion when Servam rolled out so many great models. I'm happy for India, but we are a little behind. Hopefully, every day I'm looking at their Twitter handle to see what next our challenge is. And hopefully he will. So it's a great competition. Hopefully, you will not have this question by the time we meet next. Yeah. And you will be asking, Vivek, you are a young startup. Why are you not competing against Reliance? You have no baggage. And Vivek and I will actually relish that competition.
I really look forward to that day, and I really want to compliment Reliance for having hired you from Google. So you must demonstrate that you are better than Servam. I mean, we can't,
we will compete well.
at the next AI meet, Gaurav must demonstrate that you've done remarkable disruption work in this field. So I look forward to that. We still have some time, and I've kept some.
Just to
Yeah,
add,
yeah.
sir, though they can do much more, but they have some amazing stuff showed in their Geo Expo stall in hall number 5. And those of you who want to see what they are trying to do must do. And the expo is so designed that it begins with Sarvam from hall 2 and ends at Geo hall 5. So the whole range is there. The whole
No,
range
that's
is there.
right. Yeah, I raised that question because Reliance Jio is a very innovative, very far-reaching company with deep pockets and with very deep pockets. If anybody can do it, it's Reliance Jio. So it's got a unique culture, so it can do a huge amount of disruption. But I've got time. I've kept some time because I've grilled them. I want some of you to grill them, these 4 panelists. You'll never get this opportunity again. So grill them as much. Any ladies here who want to grill? Yeah. Okay. Yeah, go ahead.
First, it's just started. 3 more days. Enjoy while it lasts. At least when it's done next time, I will be sitting there and not doing it.
Okay. Anyone, any lady here? Huh. Okay, yeah, please. Go ahead.
Sir, first of all, congratulations on the great event. So this question is, why we are taking so long to compete with you? Why we are late? Anyone can answer.
Don't think that we are late. I think the whole thing has come around, in technology and this space. When was the AI came in 1956? And we have just seen last 2 years of ChatGPT moment and trying to judge the entire history of evolution. What we are seeing now is just the beginning. What may evolve will be much more different, much more impactful. So I don't think we should judge the entire journey of evolution of this technology over the last almost 70, 80 years by what we have seen in the last 2 years. There's much more to come, and teams like Sarvam and probably Geo will try to show what more is possible. Then the question will not be why we are so late.
No, I think it's important to say that, in technology it's better to be not a second mover even, but to be a third mover. In the long run, you'll benefit from all the experiences, and actually you'll make a society far more equitable, far more accessible technology. So to my mind, we are not late at all. We'll benefit from all that has been done in other parts of the world. We'll probably use less computational power, but we'll do better. We skilled at software, we'll do better optimization, and we will ensure that this technology is taken to the people below the poverty line. It's important to ensure that we are able to incorporate them as we go along in this process.
Actually,
Okay.
On that note,
yeah, please.
that note, by the way, Geo was last in mobility, and
Yeah.
you know where we are.
Yeah, that's...
Great. Love the conversation. This is a question for the entire panel. Now, this entire summit stands for responsible AI and ethical AI for everyone, so that it compounds trust. But so far, we've seen that it's been a wild, wild west situation with private companies taking the lead. In future, what is the gold standard or the ideal standard for us? A government plus private approach, government taking the lead with more regulation, or is it status quo? Anyone can answer.
So I would ask Abhishek to respond to this, and then probably Gaurav and...
It's not either or. It's not that either the private sector or the government sector. What we have demonstrated in a DPI, it's like government, private, and civil society. Like the work which institutions like iSpirit and all did, foundations and all, for making the India stack possible cannot be discounted. It's not only government and private sector, it's like a whole ecosystem that comes together to build impactful solutions. During COVID, you remember Sir was there, he was leading when Arogya Setu was built or when the CoWIN platform was built. It was not that it was an NIC product or a government product. It required a lot of people, volunteers in the private sector who joined in, the best of private industry joined in, the best policymakers joined in who enabled the whole thing. So the role of the government is primarily to be the enabler, and the real work is actually be done by the private sector.
So on that front, by the way, I had the engagement group on child safety in the age of AI for Abhishek Singh. So it's his body. I chair that group. So it's always together.
Vivek,
That's
any-
my other avatar, by the way.
Vivek, any point?
I think that when you look at it, it is not government versus this thing. It is as a whole of society approach that needs to be there. And I think that we know. I mean, for example, we are saying that we have built a model, but certainly we have built it because of the India AI mission has actually given us these GPUs to actually train this model. Right, so that is something so therefore I think that government at very critical places has to play a very important role. The private sector absolutely must take things to the next level. And
I
I
think
it's a
the best
combination.
example of what we did in DPI, because digital identity was created, bank accounts were opened between 2015 and 17, 550 million bank accounts, Aadhaar was seeded, mobile number was seeded, then private sector took over. They competed. So India is the only country where PhonePe competes with Google Pay, Paytm competes with, Amazon Pay. Then all these startups started doing insurance, stock market transactions, credit, all that. So it's a lot of private sector play on top of the digital interest layer. iSpirit played a key role when we had G20, and the G20 accepted that the way forward is for the rest of the world is through digital public infrastructure. Please, madam. I'm a little biased towards ladies in this panel.
Okay, thank you very much. Just a question. In one of the panels we were listening to, they said, well, when it comes to development of technology, on the one hand you have India, and the other hand you have you have United States and China, and then there's the rest of us, right? And one of the things they were discussing was when it comes to development, maybe certain countries should collaborate together in order to do it faster. So my question to you would be, on the one hand, of course, it's very important to have an India-only models and, compete there. But would you be looking at, and are you looking at collaborating with some other countries around Asia or some other, regions, which would help to be faster and therefore have this balance a little bit better than what we have today? Thank you.
Yes, of course. In fact, if you remember the G20 declaration, one of the key highlights of the G20 declaration was the global DPI repository, which was set up, which was deployed. And as we are discussing on the various working groups for the AI summit also, one of the key outcomes that is being talked about is to create AI commons, a repository of AI use cases that can be deployed. And there's more that will be coming in the next 2 days. I see the organizers looking at us because the next panel is ready, the next session. So I will leave it to sir to conclude.
Okay, last question. Quick. Yeah, please, go ahead.
Galvanizing discussion. Thanks for such a galvanizing discussion. I just wanted to have your inputs on how do you see this story moving forward, where startups and industry play a huge role in high-end capacity development in our higher educational institutes, so that we have more talent who's hacking into the foundational layers.
Okay, got it. Abhishek.
Yeah, like one way can be that give them exposure to what is needed. Like any engineer who is graduating, he should know how coding agents work, how to actually work with models, and also curriculum needs to be upgraded, training tools to be provided, lots of AI lessons across disciplines, because AI cuts across humanities, economics, medicine, law, all sectors.
Yeah.
So ensuring that it becomes part of every
And not
section.
only higher institutions, you have to start teaching AI from class 3 onwards. Now, it's very important. So, ladies and gentlemen, we are at exactly 4:30. We want to end this session. Thank you very much for this very lively, vibrant discussion. Thank you.
Please, everyone, be seated. Thank you, everyone, for joining us and sharing such a wonderful session on India's AI session. So, this is a souvenir from India AI Impact Summit team.
Please move out of the room. We have to prepare for the next session, please.